My name is Samir from vsam.pro, and today we're going to talk about virtual machine migration. So, virtual machine migration is the migration of one virtual machine from one platform to another. You can also think, of course, of vMotion and that kind of stuff, but that's not what we're talking about. In this case, we're really talking about changing from Hyper-V to VMware, or vice versa. In this case, though, we're only going to show how you can change from Hyper-V to VMware, because otherwise the video would be too lengthy. But I can show you both options, how it works. So, Hyper-V uses different virtual hard disk files than VMware does. And in this case, the different files need to be conversed. Well, there are two different tools that can be used for this. One of them is VMware vCenter Converter, the standalone client. And actually, this is the one that I recommend the most. The reason for this is that it also changes the machine to a virtual. Well, it changes not only the virtual machine to a different hard disk, but it also really configure the next virtual machine. With Starwind, this is not the case. Starwind just convert the virtual hard disk, and that's okay. That's how you want it. But if you when you change or convert the virtual hard disk in Starwind, then you still need to configure the machine. Well, you can of course configure a new machine, set it up the same way, and attach the hard disk with it. And sometimes this works instantly, but most of the time you will get a blue screen or a startup failure, especially when you're talking about C drives or system disks, because they are not built for the change of hardware. In this case, VMware also installs the newest drivers and everything, and it makes sure that it can boot up. But with Starwind, you only convert the virtual hard disk and you don't attach new machines with it. So you still have to use something from VMware to configure the machine. So that's the case. But with, let's say, departitions, this is a really good tool. Because with only raw data, it really doesn't matter which hard disk you are going to use. And the thing is also, Microsoft uses actually for all its virtual hard disks always IDA. But they changed that in 2012 when they introduced a new file system, VHDX. And before it was only VHD. So yeah, that's quite interesting, because the new file system allows more it allows more storage on your virtual hard disk. So that's one of the big benefits from the new file system. But in the past, you could not use VMware vCenter Converter with VHDX files. But that's gone now. This is version 6.1.1, this one, and this one is actually supported with VHDX files. So that's a cool thing. So you can also now, without problems, convert 2012 machines, which a lot of people therefore use Starwind, because VMware could not support it. But I'm going to show you both ways. So this one is the one that I recommend the most, but we're going to start with this one. Oh, well, you didn't see because I already opened it. I would redo it. So yes. And this is both freeware, by the way. You can download it both at their site. You can, with Starwind you only have to sign up, and I think actually with VMware you also need a VMware account, but they are both freeware. So here you can choose where you want to get the image from. Now this can be from your ESXi server or from your Microsoft Hyper-V server. I actually prefer always an offline conversion, but not everyone agrees with that. But with Starwind, this you can do that really well. So here I select a file, and you can see in this folder there are already 4 files, and actually this is the original Microsoft file. If I right click on it, you'll see it's an VHDX file. Well, it started in 2012 with VHDX files. Later on it was also backwards supported for older system. Not all, but a few olders as well. And in the case for Windows 2008 R2, this is also the case. So, if you see here, you see 4 different files, and you see 3 VMDK files. Well, they are all both different. These 2 do belong to each other. This one is another one. This one is actually for VMware Workstation, but you cannot really see it. What the difference is between them in naming conversion, because they are both VMDK files, but this one cannot, and I repeat, cannot be used in a vCenter environment or a vSphere environment. This is only pure for Workstation. These 2, however, are for vCenter. So I converted this one to a VMDK file, and as you notice, this one has almost around 8 GB disk space for its total file. And this means that it is TIM provisioned, because when I created the hard disk, I said, well, let's make it around 45 GB. But with TIM provisioning, and I don't know if you know this already, but if you don't, then you will know now, you have a few hard disk options, and TIM provisioning is one of the options that I actually love it, and not all people will use TIM provisioning for different reasons, and I'm going to explain you why. But TIM provisioning actually says, I'm only going to use the space that you actually are using. So with this case, this is really nice. Let's say they have like 100 virtual machines, and you all assign them 45 GB. But you know, most machines don't even use all of their capacity on their hard disks. And this will mean that if you will provision a tick, so tick provisioning is just saying, all right, you say that you want to have 45 gig, then I will serve those whole 45 GB for you. So with tick provisioning, you really give the machine 45 GB, and this is the case for this one. This is a tick provisioned hard disk, but this isn't TIM provisioned, and this is only going to use the space that it needs. So why wouldn't you always use TIM provisioning? Because like I said, if you have 100 machines and you have 45 GB times 100, well, you know how that you have use much more space than if you have almost 4.5 terabytes that you're going to use on space. And maybe you only use around, well, let's say 600 gigabytes. That's possible. It's really possible. With 100 machines, it's really possible that you only use that small portion of space. So the cool thing about TIM provisioning is that you save a lot of space, really. And the drawback of this is that it's more difficult to manage. Well, personally, I don't think so, because you have a lot of systems, Veeam or vCenter built-in alarms or whatsoever that can alarm you when your size is growing too much. Because the thing is, if it's keep claiming new space, and what you are doing is actually over provisioning. So let's say that you have 1 terabyte and you have 11 machines, and you give every machine 100 gigabytes, then every machine thinks, oh, I can use 100 gigabytes. So actually, but you are 100 gigabytes short, because you have 11 machines and you have 1 terabyte, so you have not enough space. But with TIM provisioning, you only use the space that you need. And the cool thing is that you can over provision a lot of machines, and that's the cool thing. But what happens if all those machines grow in size without that you noticed? Then you can maybe have a bad day that you didn't knew that the machines were all growing so much, and then suddenly your storage is full. And when that happens, it's a really, really, really bad day. So for management purpose, it's more difficult to see, because all the machines are growing and you're not checking. You cannot always see if all the machines are growing at the same time. Of course, you can see how much storage is being used, but if you're not aware of a few things and a few machines are writing their whole log file down, maybe in a bad time you can write your whole storage full. So that's the thing. With tick provisioning, you can prevent that. That's the cool thing about tick provisioning, that you have more manageability. But also, according to experts, they say that tick provisioning has a little bit more of performance than TIM provisioning. I'm not totally, how do you say it? I don't think that's totally true. That's, of course, it is with tick provisioning eager zeroed, because you have two settings also here. You have lazy zeroed and eager zeroed, at least you have in VMware. And lazy zeroed or eager zeroed actually says, well, for the space that you're going to claim, so let's say 45 gigabytes, we're going to write every section, every portion of the space, we're going to write it down with zeros, so that when we are going to write the data, we don't have to convert the data first to a normal state where we only have zeros. So this way it can write down the data quicker. While with a TIM provision disk, you probably still have to, when the data is getting written, convert the data to zeros. Or first you have to convert the virtual hard disk to zeros. So that's the thing, it's a little bit quicker, and this can be really important with really high critical machines that are dependent on 1 millisecond. You know, there are still companies that only use hardware or physical machines because the performance is a little bit more reliable for them, and they need that 1 millisecond of difference. That can be the case. Also, SQL servers, they are definitely tend to be to run better on eager zeroed tick provision disks. So yeah, for those cases, that's also a reason to use tick provisioning. Lazy zeroed is actually just saying, I'm going to carve out a space, but I'm going to only change the data once I need to write it. So it doesn't change to zeros. This makes it quicker to create a hard disk than in case with eager zeroed, because in eager zeroed it takes a lot of time to create a hard disk because it's first going to convert every sector to zeros. But yeah, that's the difference. So there are different ways to use those disks, and this is still a discussion for a lot of people who are in the virtualization. But now you know the difference, and it really depends on your company, which kind of type of disks you want to use. I prefer TIM provisioning. I actually always do, because so much space gets lost, especially if you have people who don't know much about virtual machines, or they just use virtualization just because it's more handy and everything, and that's cool, but they are not really into virtualization itself. Then they don't have, most of the time they don't really have that great of estimation of how much space they really do need. So that's the thing, that you can lose a lot of space by using tick provisioning, and that I think is waste. But yeah, that's a whole nother discussion, and that's not what I'm going to talk about. So here, that's what we did. Let's check it out. I'm going to close you. I actually migrated this one, so I'm not going to do it again, because I can show you here. I already have it. Windows 7 I also have. So let's do Windows 8. I'm going to shut you down, by the way. So I'm going to show you first an error, then you know why this error comes up. Come on. Thank you. Yeah, it's really early in the morning, so still have to wake up a little bit. So here you only see the Microsoft file. So I'm going to select this one. And it says error opening the file. So why is that? Well, that's because the virtual machine is still running. So shut it down. You can only do this when it's offline. So be sure that you don't use a machine that's running at the same time. Alright, now it's shut down. I always open you. I don't want to open you. That's my recording software, so sorry. Which is pretty cool actually. It's a totally free software, but I really love it. So now I select it again, and you see now it doesn't give an error, and that's because it's the machine is shut down. So here you got all those different options. And the one that I showed you, the VMDK file with only almost around 8 gigabytes, that's actually these three. Well, actually only this one. It says VMware Global Image. This is meant for workstation, but like I said, this format, and it also says here, is not compatible with ESXi VMDK format, the ESXi version. So be really clear about that you're not going to use it for this one. Cool thing about this one though is that you can change your virtual disk type, which is important. If you want to change to SCSI or from IDA, then it's really nice. Well, we're going to do this one. Oh, I'm going to select you this one. And the option is not given. I have one. Thank you. Here I can change it. Well, this is first. Now I wonder how this is possible. Is it because I'm going to check? No, I have a Windows 8 machine actually. That's the one that I selected. Oh, there's also VHDX file. So that's weird. For some files, it doesn't show you the option to change it. I do have selected the right one, right? Yeah. Oh, weird. For some machines, you cannot choose if you want to convert it to IDE or SCSI. I had it actually with all the other machines, and this one is the first that it shows me to convert it. So I still have to figure out why that is. Why it specifically doesn't allow a few files to do that and the other ones it doesn't. But yeah, so this way you can convert it. Here it also shows how much space you still have left. Well, that's not much for me. And here it shows it's going to convert it into a 45 gigabyte file. Problem is that with ESXi you can only change it to thick, not thin. So that's actually the explanation for Starwind. You only have to convert the file, then you upload it to your data store, create a new machine, and then you configure it like you have done with your old hypervisor, and then you attach the virtual hard disk. Oh, and there was one thing that I almost forgot to show you. There are also those other two hard disk files. And what about that? Well, a real quick note about that one. Oh no, sorry. It is pretty cool. You can check the files within the machine. I always love that actually. With Microsoft, that you can really open the hard disk files. So that's a cool thing. Yeah, here wasn't it? Yes. So here you also see those other two files. And what about these? Well, like I said, this is the flat, and this is also the same file, but then with only 1 kilobyte VMDK file. And this is actually a description file. This explains how this file works. So without one of these, it doesn't work. Of course, if you don't have this one, you don't have any data. But if you upload this one to your data store, it does say .vmdk, but your vCenter or ESXi host will not recognize it as a VMDK file, and you cannot attach it. So when you upload this one, you have to also upload this file. And once you do that, it looks a little bit weird, but once you upload the second file, it will merge both files together, and then you get one file which is called the VMDK file. And that's because, like I said, the above one, this one, is the description file. So yeah, they are both really, you really both need them. You really need both of them. I'm sorry for my English, guys. It's really early in the morning, and I haven't talked for such a long time in English again. So I'm sorry. I'm not really good at spelling. This is really one of the big things that I still have to learn in English to spell and that kind of stuff. So I'd rather write it down. But I hope it's you can understand what I'm saying. So now we're going to check out the VMware vCenter Converter, and I'll show you. This is one of the latest versions. Thank you. 6.1.1. So yeah, this is the one that I use right now. I actually did already one. I made another video, and I also migrated this one another machine, but I redo this video because I think it can be done better. So you see two options: convert the machine and configure the machine. Well, with configure the machine, this is actually what you can do with Starwind. If you have convert the file to a VMDK file and you upload it to the data store, then you still have to configure the machine. So once you select the machine, you can do this and select the machine that you want, and you have to give your root information of your ESXi host or the vCenter administrator host. And then you can select the machine and say I want to convert it, and you can add some extra options, and this way it will actually makes your hard disks most of the time bootable. So this is still the way to, if you still want to use and see a hard disk of a system file as your new if you want to convert a system file to the new file, then you still have to use this one. So that's the case. I'm not going to show you all of this because that will make the video more long, and I think I rather want to keep it short as possible. Still, I'll explain a lot in the meantime, just so that you know what the thoughts are behind this, and I think that's, well, something that you need to know. Anyway, let's convert a machine. So there are 3 different options. You have the powered on, which you can use for remote Windows machines or also the local machine. And with local machine, you're actually saying, I want to convert the machine that I'm on right now to a virtual machine. That's what you're saying with local machine. With powered off, you can select if you want to use hypervisor vServer and a VMware infrastructure virtual machine. Well, or even workstation. The thing is, with my Windows 10 laptop, I have quite some problems because they changed some security settings, and it makes it more difficult to do this. So that's why I'm going to show you this one for 2 reasons. This one is also the way to go if you want to do a physical migration of your machine to a virtual migration, but also with virtual to virtual. So yeah, but this is actually a really cool one, and we're going to do this. So you're going to select a remote Windows machine. And in this case, I still have to set it up, I guess. We're going to do Windows 8, that's what I said. So let's turn you back on again. I'll start. And actually, I don't know if I have already gave him an IP address, but otherwise we're going to do that right now. And I'm going to show you a few things that you have to do before you can even, well, change the machine to convert the machine to another station. All right. Well, by the way, before I go too quickly, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to check 3 settings. Of course, I'm going to check if it has an IP address, and I always rather want to do that with the command prompt, and I use a lot of keyboard shortcuts. I like that because the Windows versions keep changing all the time, and sometimes you have to check where the new version is, and I don't really like that. So, but with these shortcuts, you always go to the place that you know that you want to go to. So that's why I always remember those shortcuts. So to go to your network settings is ncpa.cpl, and you can open the one menu with start with the start button and pushing R at the same time, and then you get the one button. So if you push this, well, it says here that there's no cable unplugged, and that's true because I haven't set it up here. We're going to do it quickly. Here it says not connected, and that's true. Now it's going to be connected. Here, now it changed to this one. Still APIPA. Fine, yes. So 192.168.2.14. Okay. So that's his IP address. I'm going to placed already in the converter. Change it to 4. Alright, so what do you need to know? Well, I'm going to show you a few ways. One of the first things that I always do, this is not, you don't need it by the way, but I always do it so that I know that I can make a connection to my machine, just to be sure. So open the run command again, type in sysdm.cpl, and then you will get this. It shows you how your computer name is called, in this case Macro Windows 8, and the mode, if you can allow it for remote connection. So I'm going to allow it. I'm going to deselect this one because I'm a badass and I don't care. No, it's because I want to be easy right now. So I'll apply this one and I'll check if I can make a connection. To the machine. Most probably not, and the reason for that is this, which we're going to have to turn off anyway. Oh, that's why I hate these machines, because of not showing sometimes your search results or taking a long time. Anyway, go to your Windows firewall and turn it off. Well, by the way, this is not recommended if you're going to use it in production sites and you are dependent on your Windows firewall. There are a lot of companies though that turn off their firewall immediately because they have an external firewall that will arrange all the connections, and the machines are all in an internal network and they don't need the Windows firewall. So it depends on your company organization, but don't turn off your firewall if you really use it. If your machines are dependent on it, then check out which ports you're going to need to turn off. It shows really clearly in the VMware documentation. Well, I'll be honest, I don't know which ports there are at the moment, but yeah. Alright, so I'm going to turn it off, and it's all dangerous right now. It says I'm not going to connect, and now I can connect. You see? So, first of all, you do have to always turn off the firewall, also for your machine, or well, you have to open the ports, otherwise your converter cannot make connection to the machine. So I'm going to show you something that you probably want to do. So now you know, open cmd, who am I? So I'm Maco Windows 8./Maco. So now you know the machine that you want to do. Type in the password and you will see, here you will see it can make a connection, otherwise it doesn't prompt you this screen. And now you can say, alright, I want to install a standalone agent for temporary to use for the conversion, and it's going to use a temporary. So you can choose, do I want to uninstall it automatically when the import is succeeded and he has made a new machine at the vCenter site, or do you want to install it manually? So I will say do it automatically for me, because otherwise I will forget it. And now you're going to see something. It will say insufficient permission to connect to the IP address /admin $. And what is that? Well, that's because Microsoft has, for good reasons, had made a new security. Has changed the security policy, and it doesn't allow you to access that folder anymore, which we did actually as IT consultants. A lot of people did it in the past. You could just use the backslash and then type an IP address /admin and then $, and then you could see a lot of software and everything where we all placed our stuff. But that's not possible anymore, and there's a good reason for it, because it delivers a lot of security issues. So how we can change that? Well, there are different ways to do this, but one of the easier methods that I'm going to use is this one, and I will show you right away. Do note that you don't forget to turn everything off again once you started with this, because I'm going to, because if you see, you know, you don't have the user account for administrator anymore. I don't have that, so I'm going to show you. I only have my Mac Mako and the guest account, but I don't have the old one. So yeah, by the way, cool trick: Control Shift on your keyboard. If you press Enter, then it will ask you if you want to use it in administrator mode. So if you use Control Shift for your applications, then you're going to open them in your administrator mode. And I use the keyboard a lot, and always I had to type something and then I have to right click, press select administrator mode. But I just found this out and I think it's pretty awesome and easy to use. So now I'm using this as administrator because otherwise it's not going to work. And I'm going to re-enable the administrator account, the default. And this is also the account where the admin folder is how do you say it? Connected to. So you type in net user, administrator, whack, active, I don't know how to say this, colon in English, I guess. Like I said, I'm really bad at this kind of stuff. And then you type yes. I think I used the wrong column. We're going to see. But the fun thing is, I'm using the wrong slash. The thing is, it will always say the command completed successfully. But it actually, even if it is not working, it will still say that. Ah, this is the right one. So yeah. So now the administrator account is enabled. But I'm going to show you if I'll type this one. It will say the command completed successfully, but he didn't do anything. So keep in mind that, hey, shit, it's not working. Check if you type it, write it down real well, because it will always say that your command completed successfully. I don't know why, for whatever reason, but it's a little bit misguiding. So now this administrator account is activated and it probably doesn't have any password. So we're going to give it a password. See? And that's why also one of the reasons that it's disabled, and you definitely should give it the password and afterwards disable it, because this is a great vulnerability now. If you don't do anything with it and somebody tries to access this machine with the administrator account or local administrator account, then it has local access, full local access to your machine. So that's pretty important actually. So I'm going to change it. And now I'm also going to change this machine because this makes my life a whole account, and makes my life a whole lot easier. Yep. And now you will see it doesn't give me the error and is going to deploy the agent. So this is pretty awesome actually. This is all done silently. You're not going to see it on the machine, but you can check it here. Services.msc. Yeah, I know I'm all off the shortcuts, but I love it that way. VMware vCenter Converter Standalone agent is running now. So if you have problems with the conversion, check if it is running, because that's the case with Windows 10. Half the time it doesn't run, and this makes it really difficult to do the conversion, because there is one service that they also disabled in Windows 10, and it's all for security reasons, and I do understand, but it's called the interactive services mode, and this means that interactive services cannot run, and this is an interactive service. So you have to enable that in the registry again, and then you have to run your interactive service, and then you can run your VMware vCenter Converter. But Windows 10 is really difficult in this. So in Windows 10, I rather do the conversion with Starwind and then reconfigure the machine later, because it's a really big hassle to make it run and to let the conversion get through. Anyway, so this is how it works. So with Windows 8, 7, 2008, it's all easy, and 2012 is actually also really easy, I thought. Here you're going to select what your destination type should be, In this case, I'm going to say VMware Infrastructure Virtual Machine, not the workstation, because then you're going to do workstation, of course. Type in the server. This can be the vCenter or the ESXi host. I only have set up my, well, I'm in the beginning of my home lab, so I haven't set it up really much, more than just one ESXi server. So I'm going to use the ESXi server directly. Now it's really quick. Now it already makes a connection to your vCenter, or to your ESXi host. So like you see, this is here. And it shows which machines are already on it. So you can give it a name. I give it Labo. I forgot about the last machine I see. I called Labo. You give it a name and it's going to place it in this location. You're going to select which ESXi host, but you're already directly on the ESXi host, so that's not the case. You're going to select the data store that's going to use and which version. So if you have older hardware, there is some hardware is not compatible with the newer versions. They scrapped out some of the old legacy hardware. So check out if that's the case for you. If you have some dependencies of old hardware, if you have just a standard virtual machine, you shouldn't worry about it and you just hit the latest version. But if not, check it out. So in this case, we'll use version 11. And I say, all right, copy the data, next, and then it's going to finish. And that's it. That's how you convert the machine from Windows to VMware. Yeah. And yeah, I can show you the one that I already did. You see, it's already making... It's going to show me in a second. Oh, it failed. At 100%. This is something. This is the first time this happened to me in my own tutorial. Well, this is fun. I always have these errors. Failed, the VSS snapshot cannot be stored because there is not. Well, that's cool that I see it now, because if you have this kind of questions like, hey, I'm getting an error and it's not working at the moment. There is not enough space on the source volume, because source machine does not have antivirus volumes. Is it maybe because, let's check it out. I'm going to check this out right now. Well, that's embarrassing. Well, you did saw for a second that this was going to create a machine. Now it removed it again. So I will pause this for a few seconds and then I will be right back at you with the solution. I'm actually really happy that it happened, because this hasn't happened to me before. That's why I'm also doing all these different type of machines, because I didn't have these issues with 2008 and Windows 7. I didn't have all these issues. So I'm really happy actually that it happened, even though I look really dumb right now. But I'll be right back. Hi there, I'm back again. So yeah, I said to you guys I'll be back in a few seconds, but this has actually been a couple of days before I finally found out the real reason for the machine not finishing. And it was actually, if I checked the internet, I could find quite some different stories or questions about why it already stopped at the first 1% and it didn't finish. And actually nobody had seemed to solve it. There were different suggestions, but I couldn't find one answer that really solved this issue. So I'm really happy that I found it out, even though it took me a couple of days. But yeah, so what was the problem? That you could not change it, that I could not convert the machine while the other two machines went flawless. Well, first things first, the machine was set up differently than the other two. The other two machines made use of MBR, and this is a Windows 8 machine, And in Windows 8, and this will probably also be with Windows 10, they make use of the GPT, the GUID partition table. So it has a different setup, because in the previous in my previous machines, the system reserve was big enough for VSSS to make a snapshot or to temporarily save its files for the conversion. Well, the weird thing is though that when you're making a snapshot with Hyper-V, there seems to be no issue or problem to make a snapshot. So that's why I didn't understand why it gave me so much problems, because a lot of backupping software have this problem that you cannot make a snapshot. And if you cannot make a snapshot, like Veeam use snapshots, actually a lot of backups make snapshots, then it doesn't know how to convert the machine, because from that snapshot it says, all right, at this point of time I'm going to create a new machine. And that's what he actually wanted to do, and he could not do it with one of the system disks. So first it only has one system disk, but the disk had different partition tables. So I actually only first made a conversion of the C drive without the other partitions, and then the machine could actually be converted. But at the end, of course, it didn't have any system drive, so it didn't know how to boot the machine or whatsoever, and that important part of the information was not there. So in the end, it could not boot up. But now we have a running machine, and I can show you here. Well, here it's weird that it doesn't show you there actually already, but I can show you here at virtual machines. It is even on my console. I have both machines up right now. This is the software that I used to solve my problem, because if I go to show you right now, here it says file system NTFS, and NTFS, by the way, also the only way that supports VSS. So this is really weird, because the GPT has one partition that's made on FAT32, the old system. Well, it's actually supposed to. GPT is actually works with the EFI boot system, while MBR works with the old BIOS system. So it was weird that it couldn't work with FAT32, and I wanted to change it first actually to NTFS, but that is also not bootable. So what I did in the end, because I found it weird that VSSS was not working, because that means that every system should not work with VSSS once you use the EFI table. So what I actually did, this was in the beginning only 99 MB big, so I changed it up to 500 MB, because I know it needs at least 50 MB of free space, and I gave him first 100, but that was apparently not enough. So then I changed the size for this one to 500. Oh, thank you. 500, and this one as well. And this one is actually the one that we're talking about that has the most problem. It's the, I can show you here, the EFI system partition, or they also call it the EPS. But this is the partition that the machine uses to boot up, and this is the one that also needed to be snapshotted, but it only had 99 MB and it could not snapshot. So what did I do? Well, first off, I resized my C drive. I moved it from 45 gigabytes to 40 gigabytes, and then I moved the unallocated space to here, and then I resized these two, and then after that I resized them and I restarted the machine. I could actually move the machine because it could make a snapshot. So I'm really happy that I found out that issue, because actually I could not find any answer that did. So now you know how to do this. Because if you check here, this is my Windows 8 machine, totally uses a different system. And it had no problem whatsoever, and it's with all the machines. So check out, before you're going to do this, if you have a problem and it already stops at 1%, the real reason that it stops at the first percent of converting a machine is real simple. The EPS, or the EFI system partition, is actually a hidden partition, but is also the first partition that your machine always is going to check. Because it's going to check that partition because it wants to know how to boot up the machine. So when you're converting the machine, that is also the first partition it's going to check. And already at the beginning, it noticed, oh, I'm sorry, I cannot make a snapshot of this, so I cannot move this partition to the new machine, and that's why it stops at the first 1%. It took me a while to figure this out, but I'm really happy that I found out the answer. And this is the software that I used with. I'm going to close this window. It's actually, well, you have different software of it, but this is the free edition. The EaseUS Partition Master Free. Really handy, really cool. You can of course also pick the trials, but this is the one that I used, and it was good enough for this situation to fix it. And now suddenly it doesn't work really well. It always happens when I'm recording. I just used it and now it's not saying them. Of course, it has to bug me right now. Oh my god, this has really been a long week. Anyway, guys, believe me, this is the one that I used for the resizing of the partitions. Anyway, I'm going to make a separate video about that one as well, because it can be a little bit difficult. Because in the beginning I thought, well, this is not even possible with this software to resize it, because your unallocated space is going to move after the C drive. And if you want to extend your hidden partitions, your unallocated space needs to be next to it. So that's really annoying, because you cannot do this with your standard tools. That's not possible. You cannot move it from here to here. And with EaseUS Partition Magic, or Master, sorry, 11.1 by the way, check that version out. You can do that. You can once you made the unallocate, well, you resize your C drive, or maybe you give it on your virtual machine a little bit extra, and then move that extra space to the left. So then you can move that unallocated space to the left of your C drive, and then you can extend your both files or both systems. So that's really cool. And yeah, that's how I solved it. So yeah, I actually we also were through the whole setting of it, but I can show you here as well. You see, it's completed now. I can show you how many times it did not work. This is every time that it failed, and it happened a lot. But in the end, it did work. There's one thing that I also learned: you can change it to 10 disks. I didn't even knew that. So I can show you that also once more, because that's really actually important, and we'll do it one more time. Oh yeah, of course, it's not root. Root is the... Oh yeah, of course, because I already used the machine. Well, let's do it with the new machine then. Or is it? Yeah, it's running as well. Maybe I'm messing up the system a little bit here, because I'm using multiple IP addresses at the same time. Sometimes you really do hate IT, don't you? That's when you want to show something, literally everything has to be stuck. I just want to show one machine, I don't care about which one. think this was 7. Oh wait, no, I'm going to do it like this, by the way, again. 14. Administrator. Thank you. No, that problem. It's getting late, guys. Again, it's getting late. It keeps getting used. I keep using it as an excuse, but still. So log into the vCenter, blah blah blah. Version 2, next. So here you're going to choose where you want to store it. I already told you that before. Here, this is cool. You can change how you want to copy the volume. And if you select advanced, I thought, destination. Yeah, here you can choose you want it tick provisioned or tin provisioned. So that's what I did. I changed that one and I've moved it to tin. And here you see, these are the hidden partitions. So it sees 2 partitions, and this is the most important one. This is the one that always gives the problems. And once I changed it to 500 MB, the problem was gone. So I could click next. I don't want to finish this guy now, guys, because for some weird reason, if I'm going to want to cancel it, I have to reboot my whole machine, because vCenter Converter doesn't like when you cancel something. It always gives me trouble once you started it. So I'm going to do it this time. But yeah, that's how it works. I showed you that it even is up and running right now. Here it also shows that it is finished. So yeah, hope that you enjoyed it. I also made a short version of this. So if you want to check it out one more time and that I won't go more quickly through it, so really literally only the configuration and not the thoughts behind it, then yeah, check that video out. But again, hope you enjoyed it. If there are any questions or if you still have some problems, check out my comment section below or the description, because there I also placed a link of VMware with its release notes, and there they have also different solutions for the VSSS problems that can arise. If you like the video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, because there are more cool videos coming up, and I wish you all the best. Alright, thank you. See ya.